Hi, karibu sana. Uko salama lakini? I'm sure the lockdown is getting you down, or the curfew, or the uncertainty. Yeah, but don't worry. Yeah, always remember those very important words. This too shall pass. What has a beginning also has an end. And I sense the end is very close. So take courage. Tutatoboa. Yeah, don't worry if the news every day is bad news, bad news. No, don't stick to the news. Because as you'll find out in this show today, things are not what they seem. No, we already established in the previous video that the whole intention here is to create fear, to make people fear. Yeah, and I told you what the objective is. Anyway, let's get down to it. Now, before we dive into the meat of our show today, let us make something very clear. If you want to solve a mystery, don't be in a hurry. I'm sure you know we have a very puzzling mystery before us, linked to the current crisis. And it is important to solve this mystery for very many reasons. According to me, the most important reason is that it touches on your very destiny. Anyway, we agree there's a mystery. And I'm saying to solve a mystery, don't be in a hurry. Just collect the information, slowly by slowly, put it all together. Sooner or later, a pattern will develop. And a pattern will most likely lead you to the truth. It's that simple. Now, of course, that is the theory part of things. Yeah, practically. Of course, there are a lot of complications that you'll come across. For instance, there's a mystery I stuck with, which I know some of you already know. There's a mystery I stuck with for 15 years. And it was the mystery of who assassinated Tom Mboya and why. I will put a link in the description area of this video, and also one towards the tail end of this show today, where you can go and take in the results of my 15 years work. 15 years on and off, 15 years of frustrations, dead ends, etc., etc. But finally, the truth became very clear. Now, I'm not asking you to wait for 15 years to solve the current crisis. No, there are huge advantages here. I was investigating a cold case. Yeah, this one is not a cold case. It is happening. It is unraveling right before our eyes. And since my first show on this channel, that many termed a conspiracy theory, Chris has just gone mad. Patterns have started developing, and many have changed their positions, the initial positions. Of Chris, sasa kama not this time. Yani, Chris, this is too much. You've just gone crazy. Bottom line, their position after my first show on this channel about this current crisis and suggestions as to where it came from, its origins and the objectives, etc., etc. Their position then and now is very different. Now, today we have some more patterns, some more information to put into that jigsaw puzzle. And it's just crazy information. But very quickly, before we move to that information, there's the latest in Kenya. The Member of Parliament for Dagoretti South, Honorable John Kiarie, has said things on his Twitter account that really just scare. What the Honorable Member of Parliament has done is to fuel what is going through most minds in Kenya today. And that is, the government is not telling us everything. They should be more open, so that Kenyans are better prepared for what is coming. Now, the Honorable Member for Dagoretti South is a member of Club 1999. Indeed, he was a member of Club 595, which was there before Club 1999. He has supported the Kumkucha brand in the past. And although I've never met him in person, I don't have anything personal against him. But Mheshimiwa, what you have done here is not right. By being a member of parliament, you have access to information, a lot more information than the rest of us. And in this statement, you have just given us half, a quarter, a fraction of what you know, or you believe is happening. And therefore, you have left us hanging. And there's nothing that causes fear more than a fear of the unknown. A fear of what has just been implied, but you really don't know what it is. If the honorable member was really interested in getting something done, he has access. He has access to the head of state. He has access to other very senior members of government, close to the head of state and close to powerful people in government. Those are the people you should have talked to in private. But tweeting in public, tweets that will make Kenyans just more scared, how will that help us? Now I know some of you will strongly disagree with me, but in matters like this that involve the entire, the things you do not know may never harm you, because research is ongoing, medications are being tested, etc., etc. That bad news that you don't know right now is of no help, because you'll not be able to do anything about it. But the fact that you don't know is good, because you're not alarmed. And who knows about tomorrow? Anyway, that's my view. You know, the tweets by the member of parliament can actually harm, because Kenyans are very stressed. So you cause them more stress. And as somebody pointed out in the comments area in my previous video, stress weakens the immune system. Stress is the major trigger that turns previously healthy people into unhealthy people with various health challenges, and sometimes very serious ones. Some are life-threatening, all coming from stress. Now, what I try very hard to do on this channel is to remain positive, but I don't sugarcoat the facts. I give you the facts as they are. I try my best to give you all the facts, not to leave you hanging and imagining the worst. No. I know it is possible that I'm not successful all the time, but I try. Now, the information I have for you today seems to support the pattern that is developing. And what pattern is that? Simply put, there's much more to this crisis than meets the eye, or what you see in the media. In other words, there are a lot of hidden things behind this current crisis. Now, based on what we already know so far, it seems that leaders all over the world are under intense pressure to lock down their countries completely. And on the surface of things, it makes sense. Why? Because that's what China did. Now, hold on a minute. Let's try and think this thing through. The Chinese people on the ground are used to a draconian government. They are used to sudden government directives, which must be obeyed. They are used to human rights abuses. That's normal in China. And because it is normal, people are born there, they adapt, and they grow up having fully adapted to that kind of environment. And so, copy-pasting what was done in China may not work. In fact, will most probably not work in people who are not used to the Chinese environment. People who are not Chinese, don't live in China, and can never compete with the Chinese, who have been preparing all their lives since they were born to be ready for anything from the government. Which of course means having a plan B and a plan C, etc., etc. Stocking your house with food, knowing where to go into hiding, etc., etc. And so, what you'd expect from copy-pasting what happened in China into another country is just trouble and more problems. And indeed, creating more problems than what you're trying to fight against. More and more people are beginning to realize that in this crisis, it may be a better idea to balance the livelihoods of people, and their need to stay safe from this crisis, this virus. I'm not saying it is easy to find a balance, but that is the direction the world should be going, not just copy-pasting what China did. And at least some world experts seem to agree with that view, although many of them have been told to shut up because health professionals have taken over and they have said this is what must be done. Anyway, now on your screens you can see a quote from a man who is the director of global health programs at Washington, D.C. based Council on Foreign Relations. And he says, and I quote, "No other nation, Western or otherwise, can or should seek to replicate China's actions. The disregard for civil liberties and human rights that the government has demonstrated in its quarantine and censorship activities are inseparable from the policies and actions of that same government that contributed to the outbreak in the first place." End of quote. The long and short of what he's saying, bila kizungu mingi, is that no country, either Western or a non-Western country, should copy-paste what China did. Especially because the censorship activities in China, and the fact that nobody knows for sure what happened or is happening in China because of the policy of that government about sharing information, etc., etc. What you'd be doing in copying China is you'd be doing something completely blind, because you don't understand it in full. You're just copying without understanding the other details, some of which may be critical. Remember the whistleblower, the scientist who first told the world that there's something going on? What happened to him? Why did they shut him up so quickly? What other information was he going to give us that they didn't want the world to know? And there's yet another reason, amongst many other reasons, why countries should not just copy the Chinese lockdown without understanding what they're doing. Now on your screens right now are the figures of influenza, which is a very infectious disease, has many similarities to what we're facing right now. And you can see from the figures, from the 2018-2019 period, period of 1 year. And you can immediately see that these figures are alarming. 34,200 people succumbed. Just looking at these figures and what is happening before our eyes, there should have been a lockdown in the whole of the United States, 2018-2019. Influenza season, but there wasn't. It wouldn't make sense. And so, why does it suddenly make sense now? Why? Now, I respect experts. Experts are very important. When you need something done in a certain area, you go to an expert. I always do that. However, these experts putting pressure on governments should be able to explain very clearly where they're going with this. A very clever, very smart guy called Albert Einstein once said that if you can't explain something in simple language, so that people can understand, anybody can understand, then you really don't understand that which you're an expert, that which you know, that everybody else doesn't know. Now, let's talk about the experts, or rather let's talk about the organization where most of these experts are coming from. An organization called the World Health Organization. Now, many people don't know this, but the current Director General of the World Health Organization is an African. Oh yes. And not only that, he is the very first Director General of the World Health Organization. This has never happened before in history. He is the very first to get that position. And yet, he is not, wait for this one, he is not a medical doctor. So, what is he? You don't want to hear this one. He is an academician and is also a politician. Yeah. Chris, you want to tell me that who is headed by an African politician? Yes, that's right. That's what I said. Yeah? Yani, these guys who are giving the world directives, for lockdown, total lockdown, they are headed by an African politician or a former African politician. Okay, let's not be prejudiced. Let's take a closer look. His name is Tedros Adhanom, and he was born in 1965. Therefore, he's about 55 years old. And between the year 2005 and 2012, he was the Minister of Health in the Ethiopian government. And he did a pretty good job, according to his CV. He was able to reduce the infant mortality rate in Ethiopia dramatically, by doing, amongst other things, going for very innovative solutions, like getting 40,000 female health extension workers, training them and deploying them countrywide. Also, at the time he took over, Ethiopia had one of the highest new HIV/AIDS infections. His efforts and policies dramatically reduced that. Between the year 2012 and 2016, Tedros Adhanom was the foreign minister for Ethiopia. Now, there's something super fascinating that happened before Bwana Tedros Adhanom was elected to be Director General of World Health Organization. Oh yes, they elected. An advisor to his rival in running for that office, he was up against a British national, a man called David Nabarro. An advisor to his opponent released some very explosive information from Bwana Tedros Adhanom's past. And this was the information that during his tenure as health minister in Ethiopia, something happened in the year 2006, 2009, and 2011. In those 3 years, there was a major cholera outbreak in Ethiopia. And Bwana Tedros, who was the health minister, instead of revealing the truth, covered it up. His accusers say that had he brought out the truth, many lives would have been saved. But he didn't. He covered up. Now, of course, Bwana Tedros has completely denied these allegations. He has said they are not true. But the truth is, nobody has followed up to find out the facts and the truth behind these allegations. It is highly likely that they are false. In the heat of a political campaign. That sounds crazy. For the World Health Organization, politics? Maybe in the heat of the politics, his opponents decided to stop him by manufacturing stories. That is possible. But it is also possible that there's an element of truth in these very wild allegations. Maybe there's some little truth. Who knows? But here's the thing that I found very fascinating, at least for those of us who understand international politics and how the rest of the world treats Africans. These very damning allegations were released shortly before voting, about 2 weeks before they voted for the new Director General of WHO, the World Health Organization. Now, under normal circumstances, you and I know that is more than enough to finish an African going for an important international post. We've seen that happen so many times before, even when no alleged scandals are revealed. But in this case, Bwana Tedros Adhanom went on to win the elections in May 2017 and begin his 5-year term, which means that there were some very powerful forces within the World Health Organization who ensured his win despite everything. Now, I have no idea why some people are so determined to make sure that the WHO would get its first African Director General. and indeed its first non-medical doctor, Director General. But we know many things about Africans, and especially African politicians. Let me just leave it at that. Jijazie. Now let's move on to something else that does not make any sense. And when I first got this information last night, I had to pause, drink some water, take a deep breath, and then come back to the information to confirm that I was not hallucinating. Oh yes. And this is the information. Most of the large Chinese cities, financial hubs, industrial hubs, were untouched by this crisis when it first broke out in Wuhan. At the end of it all, Beijing only had 569 people who tested positive for the virus. And out of those, only 8 succumbed. Do you have any idea what the population of Beijing is? It is 21.54 million. Now, there's another city in China that has a larger population. Shanghai, where there are only 468 people in the entire city who tested positive, and only 5 only succumbed. And the population of Shanghai is 24.28 million. Now, of course, it's possible to cook these figures. Indeed, many people find it hard to believe any figures that come out of China. That is true. However, even if they are cooked, they are not cooked by much. Multiply those figures by 10, and they're still very low. For cities with such large, huge, humongous populations. But there's something else related to this that to me is highly suspicious. And it is this. Those major cities of China are now already up and running. Factories are back to production. And guess what the emphasis on manufacturing is? Masks, gloves, ventilators, etc., etc. Stuff that is related to this current crisis. And that's not all. It is reported that in China, at the beginning of this year, in January, over 9,000 new firms, new manufacturers of gloves, masks, ventilators, etc., etc., were registered and started production. Now you'll remember that time, this crisis in China was not yet a crisis in the rest of the world. Bottom line, although the common man in China has suffered greatly from this crisis, it seems that China is miraculously, strangely positioned now to profit in a major way from this crisis. Because this is the stuff the world needs now. There's a shortage of this. So they're going to export this all over the world. Maybe we should just assume that the Chinese can see into the future. But what is really disturbing to me, all this is happening in the country where this whole thing started in the first place. But as the rest of the world rushes into lockdown, China is rushing towards full production. As I make this recording, it is reported that China has reached the level where they're manufacturing, wait for this one, 116 million masks per day. Folks, things are definitely not what they seem. But let us not be in a hurry. We're still gathering the information. And the pattern is continuing to develop. Very soon, I assure you, the whole truth will be as clear as day. Trust me on that one, because I'm experienced in what I do. I've been doing this all my life. Journalism, collecting information, investigating. And when I see the pattern developing so fast, super fast at lightning speed, trust me when I tell you, very soon, the whole truth will be crystal clear to the entire world. Even a primary school kid will be able to see what really happened here. Now, back home in Kenya, and based on what we have been saying on this show, the first few days of curfew has brought out some very interesting characteristics in Kenyans. It seems Kenyans are trying their best to adapt to the situation and maintain their lifestyles at all costs, without getting caught. They're beating the curfew. How are they doing this? Some people are going into a bar, their favorite drinking joint, and then the door is locked. They're in curfew, inside their drinking hall. And some of these operations are very sophisticated, because they're putting lookouts, people to see when patrols are around the corner. And then I'm imagining they'll switch off the lights, blah, 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 until the danger has passed. Now, we are not yet even into a lockdown, which everybody is pushing for, which certain very powerful and influential people in the world are pushing for. You must lock down. It's the only way to stop the disease. You must do it. China, blah, 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 they did it. Who do you think you are? You must lock down. But we are not yet there. So one can't help but imagine what will happen if we get there. I'm praying for those Kenyans who believe that as long as they have food in the fridge, as long as they have their stocks, they'll be safe, and they'll remain like that until the lockdown ends. That it will not matter if they're surrounded by millions of very hungry Kenyans who don't have a fridge, let alone stock of food. That all will still be well. I'm praying for those Kenyans to open their eyes. And it doesn't matter if you live in a place where the wall is 13, 20 feet tall, with a strong gate, sensors, etc., etc. It doesn't matter. Anyway, let's keep on collecting the information. In my view, we have passed that stage of looking at conspiracy theories. This stage, we're just collecting facts. And it is true already. The patterns are beginning to point very clearly at some of the conspiracy theories. But no, don't get excited. Don't even make the connection yet. Let the connection make itself. And I know there are very many unanswered questions still. So let's answer those questions with facts. Okay? Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.